Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport, the premier dealership for the Vespa scooter here in San Diego, California. So it's 2021. I have an older model Vespa, the Vespa S150. And today I'm going to go over the cosmetic differences, the performance, and how it differs from its cousin, the LX150 Vespa scooter. So the S150 was sold in North America from 2007 all the way to about 2014. And later in this video, I'll go over the differences between the years, the main one being fuel injection starting in 2011. The S150 example I have right here is a very clean example, 2008 S150. It's got under 2,000 miles on it. It is the carbureted version of this scooter in the very popular red color. The S150 was intended to be the sportier looking 150cc scooter. They did make this in a 50cc variation. It was the first Vespa that had the 4-valve 50cc motor, which was a little bit higher output than the standard 2-valve 50cc motor that was found in the LX150. But here in California, the most popular option was the 150cc motor, identical to the 150cc motor that was found in the LX, very similar to the prior model, the ET4 150. Top speed is just under 70 miles an hour. You can take this scooter on the highway. I wouldn't really recommend it, but I don't know. I've had friends ride all the way to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico, 1,000 miles from San Diego on this identical scooter with no problems whatsoever, oftentimes doing higher speeds. So when the S150 was introduced, there was no rear rack or grab rail with it. It was intended to look like a sporty scooter. They've always included this single saddle style racing seat. It's got like the fastback hump on the rear. An optional seat that's still available from Vespa is the double saddle for the S150. Any of the seats that fit a Vespa LX will also fit this model. The double saddle is going to be also in the black vinyl with the white piping that goes around the entire perimeter of the seat. Another striking difference between an LX150 and an S150 is lack of a glove box. And I personally like the look of this. The glove box doesn't offer much functionality. As it's intended, you can put some gloves, a small toolkit, a wallet, and maybe a phone. Well, the S150 has got more room for your feet, and it's also got these pair of pockets that you could drop a smaller mobile phone, keys, change, whatever. Doesn't really hold much, it's not secure, but there is a small amount of storage up here, in addition to the full-size helmet underseat bucket that's located on nearly all modern Vespas. The S150 is reminiscent of the Vespa 50 from back in the late 60s, where they put a square headlight on the small frame Vespa. So just like the original small frame Vespa 50S that had the square headlight, they put a rectangular style headlight on the S150. It works very well. It's a halogen unit. No LEDs in there, but you can update it to LEDs. One of our more popular videos is putting an HID kit in one of these several years ago. Something we used to do back in the day. Now it's all LEDs. Wheels, the frame, the engine, all identical to the LX. So next, let's get the LX 150 right next to this, and I can point out the subtle differences between the two. So a subtle difference between the LX 150 and the S150 is they have two different unique taillights. Kind of the same pattern of taillight, but the S150 taillight sticks out much further. It's got a standard incandescent bulb. As with the LX 150 taillight, it's more flush with the frame. Something that's interchangeable between the two scooters, you can certainly purchase the S150 taillight for your LX, and ironically, it's less expensive than the LX 150 taillight. Moving down just below the frame, I typically refer to these as the side skirts, or they're like little fairings that bolt to the frame that kind of finish off the edge of the frame. The S150 was the first model where they put a very streamlined, skinny set of fairings or side skirts on it. Still's got the original kickstart warning label. Only the early models had the Kickstarter on them. After 2009, they eliminated the Kickstarter on all the 150 Vespas. It wasn't very useful. It's more there for the static look. It doesn't really function all that well when you have a dead battery. They have the American reflectors that were added. The S150's got much cleaner looking reflectors that are integrated with the side skirts. So on this LX150, somebody's added the FACO LX12F crash bars from scooterwest.com to the scooter to clean up the looks and add extra protection. And of course they needed to remove the larger size reflectors that are found originally on the American market LX150. They plugged the holes with these R plugs, which are plastic plugs that fill in the holes. But you could see these side fairings or side skirts are much thicker on the LX150. So the LX150 has got the glove box right here that opens up and locks. And as with the S150, it's got the more streamlined looking floorboard along with the pair of pockets that holds a mobile phone. The bag hook on the LX is located in front of the seat. On the S150, it's the same bag hook that you find on the Vespa GTS. And ironically, you could put one of the nicer aluminum bag hooks from the Vespa GTS on the S150. So the S150 has a very unique horn cover. It protrudes from the sheet metal bodywork of the Vespa. They have this chrome embellishment in here. And the horn grill, ironically, doesn't line up with any sort of horn grill under here. The horn's actually located right here, and you can see some slots where it allows the sound of the horn to come through. But the horn grill is more of an aesthetic touch that's mounted lower. And they have an extra screw that holds this whole entire front horn cover on, versus the Vespa LX, where the horn cover is much more integrated with the bodywork. So on an S150 or S50, they have a much higher cut on the front fender, and the American reflectors didn't fit all that well, so they added this extra black plastic spacer between the reflectors, makes the reflectors stick out even further. It's the first Vespa 150 where they added this fender crest on there. It's the same fender crest as the one that's found on the Vespa GTS in 2006. The front suspension, wheel, shock, all that stuff's all identical between the LX and the S. So the standard LX instrumentation, it's got the fuel gauge, speedometer, odometer, and a clock, a couple idiot lights, and it's a similar shape to what's found on the GT200, or GTS even had the same shape speedometer. Same controls between an S150 and an LX. But if you move on to the S150, they have a very unique, sporty looking pair of round gauges with this chrome bezel that many people did not like back in the day because it reflects in your face on a sunny day. In 2011, or I think it might have been 2012, they changed this bezel to be flat black, which doesn't reflect as much. But same instrumentation, you got a clock, a speedometer, odometer, and a fuel gauge. Moving on to the mirrors, I find that these mirrors are one of the highest quality mirrors that they've ever put on the Vespa. They're very similar to the mirrors found on many Harley-Davidson motorcycles, but they have the rectangular appearance just like the headlight as well here. So I'll go into some of the other specific major changes on the S150 over the years of production. So starting in 2007, they introduced the S150 alongside with the LX150. Always came into sportier colors such as red, white, or black, and later in colors such as the titanium that's found on the very popular GTS Super Sport. Even matte black for the very last year of the S150. In 2011, they upgraded the motor to have fuel injection. So the motor gets better fuel economy and is unlikely to have a clogged carburetor at the expense of not being quite as user serviceable as with a carbureted scooter. But overall, I'd prefer the fuel injection version of this over to the carbureted one, and that's what most of our customers usually are looking for, is a fuel injected model of the S150. That was only sold for a few years because shortly after, the Sprint 150 replaced this model, and it's based on the Primavera, the complete redesign of the Vespa 150 and 50cc scooter. So in 2011, they had the college series of these scooters. They had one that was blue and white with a sticker kit on it, so it was a combination of the white frame and some blue pieces, so they kind of give it like a two-tone appearance. And then they had the other one that I kind of called a candy cane. It was red, many parts were red, just like this scooter, along with Mate Bianco white. So for 2011, they had the candy cane and the Smurf edition, blue and white. Just for 1 year, they also had top cases that matched those as well. Moving on to 2012, I think that's when the titanium version came out. And by 2013 and 14, they had the matte black version, and it also had some sporty stickers in addition to kind of give it the sporty appearance that followed the similar style of the Super Sport GTS of 2012 and 2013. For the most part, pretty much unchanged. Some real small differences in the carbureted version. They've made some slight changes to these skirts. The early ones, this was a part that could be separated, and you can go for the clean look. I think in 2009, these were cast into the side skirts. They have an electronic fuel pump on the 2009 S150 carbureted, so it's a little bit more reliable in that regard, versus the 2007, 2008 have the old vacuum operated fuel tap, if you want to go into the technical jargon of it. But for the most part, the engine's identical between them. They all perform about the same. The fuel injected ones are just slightly faster and slightly more powerful, also being a little bit more efficient. The black bezel, as I suggested, was a change. You can still get many of the popular accessories for this, everything from a back rack, the crash bars, just like on the LX that I was sharing along with it. There's several windshields that we have at Scooter West, ranging in size, that are specific to the rectangular headlight on this scooter. You could put sporty mirrors, you can change out the tires, powder coat the wheels like the original. They did have black wheels on this for 1 year. But anything that fits an LX, such as a Motor Performance Veloci 187 kit, will bolt right onto this, no problems. Thanks again for watching. This is Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. I hope you found that interesting, intuitive, or maybe it sparked your imagination to want to buy this scooter. Thanks again.